Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm glad you're here, and I'm really glad for my guest today to be here, Megan Leigh. And I'd um, like Megan, please, glad you could be here. And I'd like you to please tell a little bit about your story, however much you'd like to tell about how you came to do the work you're doing today. Oh, wait, before you do, I'd like to read your bio just so people know a little bit more about you. Megan Leigh is a certified herbalist and a seventh generation seer with a I'm not saying that right, synesthetic brain who sees letters and numbers with colors. She is also
You
a
are.
Haitian, she is also a Haitian Vodou practitioner, a root worker, an educator, and professional medium. Megan owns a folk apothecary that is a holistic approach for the everyday person to have access to centuries old medical remedies, spiritual tools, and education. Her website is Meg's Metaphysical Apothecary, and she's at Meg's Color Vision in all the social media, and those links are below. So we're having just a little bit of lag time in communication here. So I'll try to go slower with questions so that Megan can hear them easier and respond to us. And so, Megan, if you would please tell part of your story today and how you came to do the work you do.
Yes, sorry, it was a snowstorm, and so the internet lag time is a real thing right now. So apologies on that. So I have a folk apothecary, and I'm a folk herbalist. So, where I started in my journey was very young. I'm a seventh generation seer and folk practitioner. So, my grandparents and parents were the people who did not trust pharma.
Mhm.
We age about spirits and energy and communication, as well as how to make your own things, your own medicines, your own household cleaners, all of that. So, according to my family, I was about 2 or 3 years old when I would say something and they looked at me like, okay, she has the gift. She is a seer. And ever since then, when I asked, when was the very first time, my mom was like, I don't know. It was so normal in our family that it wasn't special. Nobody notated it of the day or around about what time. It was just something that we all did and talked about and a part of our family. So I've been doing professional readings since I was about 21. I've been reading my friends and family since I was 17, but doing it professionally since my early 20s. And then when I had kids, my kids were allergic to a lot of the household cleaners and red dye number 5 and all of that. So I became an herbalist. I needed to learn how to not only heal my children, but what do I do to clean or cook or make so that they wouldn't be allergic to it. Um, and as far as the synesthesia, I've had that my whole life. And it's kind of like a crossover in the brain for senses. So when everybody has a heartbeat that you can hear, but all sound I see as shapes, colors, letters, sometimes numbers, a lot of geometry, shapes. And then I saw something, I will innately see it in my mind's eye, kind of like an old picture frame. Or I'll have a body sensation, like when you get the chills or you feel something on the inside. Except for me, it's pretty intense. So I was making a bunch of tools of how I could function in the world. And as I was doing readings, I was noticing there's a lot of energy sensitives out in the world and a lot of people with gifts with nobody to teach them and nothing to help them or nobody teaching them how to help them. So I created the apothecary with all of that going on. I was like, okay, if I'm going to make it for myself and a friend, I might as well make a bunch. And if I'm going to make something either cleaning wise or health wise, there's always someone asking me, oh, but can I have that as well? So I started a business from it.
Well, I was looking through your website, through your store, and the cloak of invisibility vinegar really stood out to me. Could you tell me more about that?
About the vinegar, I'm so sorry, the lag caught
Oh,
us.
sorry. Yeah, the cloak of invisibility.
Oh, yes. So as you talked about, I practice Haitian Vodou, and a lot of people come to. I help a lot of people remove things that was put on them, or whether it was a curse that they put on themselves or that someone else put on them. And so, because I do so much work for other people, I don't want my energy stamp to be on it. So, because I can see frequency, I saw the thing that could erase a frequency. So, a cloak of invisibility, I either open the bottle while I'm working or I rub my hands on it before I do any type of workings or castings or intentions for anyone else, so that that can be a clean product for them and not have my energy in it.
That's really nice. I like that.
That makes
Um,
sense.
yes, yes. I see. Well, I don't know. See, probably not in the way you see. Sometimes I see literally. Sometimes I just see in my mind's eye on things. Um, but definitely I feel and come across in my work in biofield tuning the um, things that are in people's fields, that have attached there, and work on that. And yeah, I'll have to try your product. That sounds really good, where mine wouldn't be left behind, and to be at something else that might bother them at some time. So
Mhm.
very good. Um,
Right. Because that way your intention can stay clean and it's not um, the thing. Sometimes when someone asks us to help them, the thing that we see it because we've experienced it. And we have our own triggers, our own thought processes, our own personal attachment to things that doesn't have anything to do with us. So by opening that, it separates um, from you and the work.
yes. So did you do did the Haitian voodoo, was that from family line too, passed down type of thing? Or was that something you learned additionally
Yes
afterwards?
and no. Yes, in the way that my dad's family, I'm a mixed person. My dad is black and my mom is white. And
Okay.
I am only a third generation born freed slave.
Wow.
So my parents got married only 10 years after it was legal to do so.
Wow.
So the things that my grandmother would do on my father's side, they did them without explaining or talking about it. It was just something that we did. If you didn't like somebody in the house, this is what you start cooking. If you want to protect yourself, this is what you did, except for there was no explanation. So when I did my ancestry and a deep dive of where I'm from, my family's from, I then found Haitian Voodoo and was like, oh my gosh, this explains
Mm.
so much of what I was taught without anybody telling me the ceremony side of it. We just experienced the how you live in this lifestyle every day.
Yeah. Very interesting. Huh. Um, when I was writing out your bio and setting up the for the video today in the description for YouTube and such, I noticed that the word voodoo was spelled in different ways. You had spelled it the Voudou, and a lot of the Americanized, I'm guessing what it is, would be Voodoo. And then what I found for the Haitian part, because I was trying to do hashtags for YouTube to pick up or whatever, and it was spelled
Mhm.
Vudou there. So I spelled it that way. In case you
Mhm.
noticed in the description that it was different than what you had said, I decided to type it the way that the algorithms could pick it up. um, but it was interesting, different spellings.
Yeah, yeah, and that's totally okay. The only difference would be where you practiced is how it would be spelled. So
Oh,
there's not a wrong answer to that.
okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, you also mentioned that you did root work. I'm not exactly sure what that means. To me, like in my work, I use a hologram and we do a lot with the chakra center. So to me, root work is root chakra work. But what do you refer to as root work? Root cause, maybe?
Yeah, root work is the dense part of the cause or chakra. So in root work, I live and abide by the roots themselves. So I make the products that are solely out of roots, such as like dandelion root, things like that,
Oh, okay.
to get to the root cause of an effect. So I do a lot of energy work, but it's a very physical, bodied, earth-bound practice.
Mhm.
So, for instance, if you had seasonal depression, let's say, that is, people would treat it as, oh, it happens to everybody, it is cyclical, it's seasonal. But for me, I see seasonal depression as there is a trigger in that season that you need to do shadow work on.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does that shadow work look like? And why was that shadow there? And what of the earth can help you to elevate that happiness?
Okay. Oh, very interesting. Yeah. So you said dandelion root. What other, like I make some of my own medicinals, mainly salves or tinctures, or I'm just starting to learn essences is what I'm working on now, but to experiment with. But so I use dandelion root and comfrey root. Let's see. Oh, burdock. Burdock root is very powerful. But what
Yes.
roots do you use?
All of those. And then much more. A lot of times, things like valerian root
Mhm.
is really good for the system in the body. Or even if, for instance, I was using a rose, I would use the rose petals as the flower essence,
Mhm.
and then use the rose branch and the magical practice, and then the rose root in a bath or a tincture to get to the root of your own beauty, or how you see
Hmm.
beauty, or what
Nice.
perceptions of beauty cast upon you.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we use the whole plant.
Neat. Very. So, like the rose would, beside beauty, it's also, I guess, a symbol of passion or love. Would that be able to use the root for, like you said, the root for, say, loving yourself more, or perhaps in a relationship that you hope to improve to?
Yes. Yeah. Except for in my work, I would address how you see relationships and how you see yourself in the relationship, and what built that vision of yourself.
Hmm.
Was it your society? Was it your parents or family, or experiences, um, or past relationships? Created that so that you can manifest what you want to manifest, instead of manifesting off of where you're at right now. You want to
Hmm.
manifest what you want, and sometimes you have to kind of figure out why you want that first, and what is it about that that you are looking at, and why.
So you're using quantum time physics in your work, past to present to future.
Yes. Yeah,
Awesome.
for
Awesome.
sure.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very cool. So do you find a lot of like ancestral patterns in the work also, and how would you address that in?
I'm so sorry. The lag cut right as you said, find. Do I find? And then
Oh,
it
sorry.
skipped again. I'm so sorry that it's
Oh,
this laggy.
that's okay. Everybody understands how, I mean, we don't have control over how the internet speed is. Um,
Yeah.
I, I, I do much ancestral clearing work, and helping the ancestors transition
Oh.
to the oneness. And so much of how,
Mhm.
so much of how my own clearing my own work or my own shadow work, like you would say, is I have found inherited things, right? Either from ancestors, or I'm finding more and more evidence of inheriting it from past life things too. And
Mhm.
so, do you find
Yes.
that in some of your work? And how do you treat that with your folk apothecary too?
Absolutely. When we are children, um, for instance, I've got a 3-year-old who tells me when I was a grown up, I had 3 boys and we had this thing that we're eating right now. And so we pull memories through because energy never dies.
Right.
So we treat that as if it is present because my 3-year-old is present and in the now, but his cellular memory is as old as time.
Hmm. Right.
So, what would we do to treat a trauma such as you have an unrealistic fear of water? So, if you were drowned in a past life, that would affect how you would feel about water, no matter what your upbringing was. So, using the elements and earth, because that's the common denominator, is what we would do to treat that. And I love that you help souls ascend in their own soul path. I do the same in
Cool.
mediumship because there are different areas and lands of the dead. And being able to help them process, and I do that through serving them, and that is because of my religion. So I have an altar of my own ancestors. And if I have a dream or something that I am working out, and I know that everybody across the line is working out, I'll make that, dandelion tea for myself. And then I'll also put a cup of it on my altar for them
Hmm.
because vitality is transferable. And the vitality of that tea or essence is something something that you can use to help them process their life and their soul, just as I would do for my living 3-year-old processing a past life with an action that happened in this life.
Beautiful. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and she has an extreme fear of bugs, of most any kind of bug, except she knows granddaddy spiders don't hurt her, and she's learned roly-polies are okay. but anything else she's totally scared of. And I've tried to address it that way, because maybe it comes from further back. I hadn't thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Most likely every time.
That's good to know. I don't know her. I know it didn't come from my son. He didn't have a fear of any of those, but it may have come from her mother's side. I don't know the history there real well. So interesting. Very good. Very cool.
Or even her own past life of being buried alive, or any of those things of being attacked by anything where the bugs were coming to get you. That's in her own cellular memory.
So too, yeah. Life is so much more than what we grow up thinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most of this is quite new to me, as far as I've only come into energy work in the last 5 years. And I was a spiritual person before then, but to learn how all the ancestral stuff works, and then past lives and energy in general, it was all new to me like 5 years ago. And I have found in meditation and that people used to all know this, and so then you would train your children in the knowledge they needed, right? But it was lost, millennia ago, probably, right? Some of it, and we don't have what we need anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the world conquering, it got lost. So when we when the Catholic Church took over the belief system in France in the 14th century, it was punishable by death to contact any of your ancestors. So before that, it was their way of life, but it couldn't be because they could no longer practice that. And it only takes 3 generations to erase an entire culture.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 3 generations.
Yeah. And if you were, taught by the society that it was such a bad thing to talk to the dead, for instance, then you completely forget that that was our entire human race's thing that they did. The entire human race used to speak to the dead. But until when was it punishable by death, and did an entire religion say, do not do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it just blows my mind the damage that religion has done, that organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean spiritual things. We all need the spiritual connection, right?
Right.
But the organized teachings
Mm-hmm.
that counter what we can know innately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I
Uh,
agree.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you also do aura readings. I saw on your site, and you do that with color or no? Do you draw what you feel or see when you do readings, or?
Yes, yeah, I do. I paint them with acrylics because for me, having something to do in the physical plane when I go so far in the astral plane or in the land of the dead or the celestial plane brings me back to I'm not done until the painting is done. And when the painting's done, I'm just done. We're done. I come back to my body. But also because I can see sound and I can see frequency, love is transferable and feelings are transferable. So I can see how someone is feeling. And a lot of times when I was doing readings, people would ask me, "Oh my gosh, that was such a great reading. I don't remember anything you just said. What was the message?" So I started painting so they could take the message home with them so
Mm,
that that resonance is always there. And whether they remembered bits and pieces of their reading, that whatever the person on the other side or the guides, or if we went straight to source, whatever the overall message was, they could have that in frequency form so that every time you look at it, you would be transferred back to that frequency. Much like when you smell your grandmother's perfume and you remember a memory of your grandmother, no matter where you're at, how you feel, what's going on in the world, it immediately takes you back to that time. So by using frequency art, then I can put the frequency that that person wants me to put on paper so that when you look at it and you meditate to it, or you just sit with it or glance at it or put it on an altar, you can be taken back to that frequency and have that in your own auric field, energy fields, and feel it in your own body.
mm. That's awesome. Yes,
Yeah.
very awesome. Um,
Mhm.
but the question came to me when you were talking. So, what is your favorite memory of your grandmother, and what brings that to your mind most often?
I love that. Thank you for asking. Um, my grandmother on my mother's side, she adored us. It was hard for her because we were the first people of color that she loved, and her whole life. And that really changed her. She went from disowning my mother, literally walking on the other side of, the street so that she wouldn't be on the same side as someone who was with a person of color, to absolutely loving these children of color. So my favorite memories of her would be feeling that love that was not boundaried, because in society, for her, she had a role and she did a thing. And she was so boxed that with me, she didn't have to be. She didn't have to be boxed. She could just love and play with me and not have to worry about anything or anyone being in her sphere. And on my dad's side, my dad is one of 14 children. So my grandmother on my dad's side, my favorite memory of her is she would cook these massive meals. And a lot of times she had these kind of burners that she would put in the front yard, and she would end up cooking in the yard for what seemed like the entire neighborhood, because of how many kids she had and subsequently how many grandkids she had. And she would basically have a kitchen running inside and a kitchen running outside. And then everybody would eat outside, so that, nothing would get as dirty as she didn't want to clean up. So she would cook these massive meals. And I was one of the kids that she would put on the counter while she was cooking, and she would explain these tips and tricks to me, or I would be running food in or out to the other person making that half of the dish. And she spent a lot of time feeding that many kids and grandkids. And that was one of my favorite memories of her.
Yeah, very good. Very beautiful. I guess I kind of relate to your grandmother on your mother's side somewhat, in that my little 3-year-old granddaughter is biracial, and her mom is the first Black that has come into our family. And I had good friends that were Black that I was very close to, but it was it was different. For me, I didn't have hesitancy because of the color, but because, like you were talking about how, say when the church conquered things, right, and they could completely, or whoever did, it wouldn't have to be the church, the government, right, completely get rid of your whole traditions within 3 generations. It was like, I see across the world where the and not that it's bad in itself, the biracial of any kind, it is fine if the people are doing it, or getting together because of love and respect, good relationships and things. But I think so often powers in the world that shouldn't be in control of our lives are steering the younger generations for the last 50 years, probably even into more of these relations, for the purpose of getting rid of some of the old traditions and moral standards, perhaps, of various groups. And that's what I held against it. But it's been so good to have the love with the child there to overcome that within myself, right?
Yes. And good for you. And good for you, because that's what it takes, is love. That's what it takes to battle anything inside your own self and inside of your own system is love.
Yeah. It
And
is so
holding on
important.
to that is what makes the impossible possible.
The magic, right? Love's a magic.
Yes. Yes.
And I like that that really tied into, because another one, so many of your apothecary things were so interesting to me. And but another one that caught my eye was the money powder. And because money has the energy of love, because it's how the universe shows its love to us, right?
Mhm.
And how it takes care of our needs. So there's so much of an energy of love with money. And just as you would work for root work, right, in clearing your own shadows or clearing your own junk to so you can fully love yourself, then it opens the door for the love of the universe in many ways to come into you more fully, right? And so what does your money powder do? How do you use that?
Yes. So those powders are very traditional in the African American practice. We call them foot traffic because it's not a hope and a prayer and a wish. It's a do this and this happens. So those whole lines of powders are created because sometimes there are not opportunities for us to make money, or there's not an opportunity for us to accept the love or the assistance or whatever it is for that money to come into us. So I created the money powder to sprinkle specifically on the thing that you need money for. So a lot of traditions, will blow cinnamon into your door at the first of the month to bring money and prosperity into the home all month long. But very specifically, the money powder is for you to sprinkle on your electric bill because you need money for that thing. Or I had a woman who couldn't sell her boat. So she sprinkled money powder on her boat and then was in a bidding war of who wanted to buy that boat. Um, so it's really for a specific thing that you need money for so that you can overcome whatever it is that's blocking it and not allowing that money to come into you on that thing. So making your entire life prosperous or having a bigger salary or having bigger money come to you is a whole nother process. But for foot traffic powder, it is a thing that goes in and comes out of your life quickly. It's not something that stays. So I tell people, don't sprinkle that on the thing if you want long-term money. That is instantaneous money for the thing that you need to pay right then.
Very cool. Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite of the products that you have?
I would say right now, my favorite is my smokeless smudge sprays because the holidays, I've had a lot of people and myself, you get put into these obligatory situations where you have to be around energy that you wouldn't have chose for yourself to be in if it was in any other scenario, but it's a holiday. So when you as a body or an energy system is put into or around energy that you don't like, we as a human, just regular human race, we mull that over in our heads, in our systems. You think about all the time, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that or did that, or the audacity, or oh, I don't want to do this. And then you think about it over and over and over and over and over again until that runs its way out of your system. So I created a spray, the smokeless smudges, because respiratory health is so important right now. We are in the era of respiratory health. So I created a smokeless smudge to neutralize that energy so that you can stop running it through your own system as an empath, or to raise the frequency quickly so that if you have anything that you feel is attached to you at a lower frequency, it can't sustain itself because the frequency is so high. Or if you're trying to tune in and it's taking you forever to tune in because you just can't, then you've got a high frequency spray that will put you in that frequency without you having to work so hard at it. Or if you need courage to do the necessary thing, excuse me, then there's a smudgeless spray that you can spray in the air that promotes the frequency of, I know what I'm here to do. I am lucky and supported, and everything is possible to go my way. So I would say my favorite thing right now is the smokeless smudge line, as well as anything respiratory that I have right now because of the fear of respiratory things in the air, of how you can put something in your diffuser or an essential oil or even a simmer pot to make the whole air easier to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So, for any of your apothecaries, do you grow any of those yourself too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I grow as much as possible. And whatever I don't grow, I source it from other women, small business owners, because that's how true community works. So I will go to farmers markets and these fairs, other holistic fairs, to see who grows the thing that I don't grow and how we can collaborate together to facilitate all of these things from, homegrown things. One of my missions is to get people off of pharma and back to farm to table.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have a big garden then?
Yes, I have a big garden, but a lot of the things I grow is on my brother's land. He's got several acres, and it's easier for me to go work his property and come home than it is
Right.
to plant at my own house. At my own house, I have a lot of urban gardening. So what we'll do here is I'll teach people how to have herb towers. so that you can get those stackable pots just from the dollar store even, and plant those things in it that you want. You can have a whole herb garden in a dollar store, planter. And it doesn't have to be a big farm like we have at my brother's house, who has several acres and has the water and the resources to have those big, huge gardens. Where I would rather water some plants and garden a little bit and have some raised garden beds versus the whole farm of my brother's house.
Right, right. Yeah. Oh, very good. Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. We have a
Do you have an
pretty,
herb garden?
most of my yard is garden. We have
I love it.
we have a greenhouse. Right now, we're hoping that spinach and kale will survive these freezing temperatures for a week, or sub-zero, right? We're
Yes.
a high of 5 today or something. I don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
we have 1,000 crowns of asparagus, and have about
Yay!
30 blackberry bushes, and lots of stuff. And then there's the herbs that I grow. Yeah, and many of them are the medicinal weeds, because many are weeds. But so the yard's
Yeah.
covered,
Yeah.
and I go out and pick them. Yeah. So burdock was the one that was new to me this last summer, and I just found one growing in my
That's
yard.
beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. It was just big and there, right? Because, well, it started out little, of course, but I didn't know what it was. So something in me let it grow until the middle of the season, and I needed to do something with it. Yeah, so I went out and I held its leaves and said, "Are you medicinal?" Because, of course, if it's medicinal, I want to use all I can and plant it again, right? Plant more seeds. And it says
Yeah.
highly
Yeah.
medicinal is the message I got. And so then I looked it up and found out what it was, from pictures of it. And oh, it's awesome. What an awesome plant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I saved the
Yeah, I
roots and
love
the leaves and
that.
the flowers and the seeds. Yeah. And it's fun, right?
Yes.
So
It is. It is. I teach a lot of people their yard weeds are medicinal. One of the ones that is readily here in Kansas is henbit. And if people think that it's a weed, and if they only knew that that could lower a fever and cure so many things, they would let it grow. But
that's
society
right.
wants the green cut HOA approved yard.
Yeah. Yeah. Cleavers is another very fond one of mine. Do you have cleavers at your house?
Yes. Yes. Yes, I do. Yes.
It's just awesome. Yeah. And of course, yarrow that grows anywhere, the
Mhm.
wild yarrow. And oh, yeah. So many awesome
Oh
things.
my gosh. Which is so good. For any cuts, any scar tissue, you chew some yarrow and put it on a cut, it will heal it as quick as could be.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
many
that's
things.
all folk taught, those oral traditions of what was passed down between what would happen. If, when I was a kid, my folks were farmers by choice or force. And they would, if you fell and got cut, they would be like, "Oh, go find this plant and do this and this and this," or all of those oral traditions kind of got lost. And I'm hoping to collaborate with a lot of people who are doing Kansas native plants, Missouri native plants, and what did they do with those plants, and what did that look like? What medicinal uses did they use for that? And what did they use for food with that as well, to feed? Because there's a lot out there that, even though the root could be used to heal something, the leaf could be used as an outdoor plate, or to eat as lettuce, or any of that. And they say that you can live off of your land and everything that you need to survive and live a well-lived life is within 10 miles of where you're at. You just have to seek it out and have the knowledge of what to do with that and how to prepare it and consume it or use it.
It just goes to prove once again how the universe has prepared everything for us, right? So the same health problem you might have wherever you're living, there's going to be plants or things from nature around that you can use within your area, and it might be totally different from the person that's 200 miles or 1,000 miles away from you, but they're both going to work.
For sure. Yes, most definitely. I am hoping that the year 2025, and as we go forward into the century, that knowledge is going to be something that not only people seek, but more people start sharing with one another, and start asking those questions, such as you have here today, just to have a curiosity into another window of life and be able to share that, so that people can remember that you are truly never alone, and that there's always something somewhere to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is beautiful. I love your work, Megan. Yeah, I love it. I hope to
Thank you.
have some personal experience with it. I will talk to you when the time is right to
For sure.
just see what we can do. And before we close today, is there anything else you'd like to leave people with or tell them about or such?
Sure. My next thing of where I'll be at is in Lawrence, at the Village Witch. I'll be teaching a shadow work class and workshop of how to do deep dives or how to do little dives into your shadow and what that looks like and identifies as you carry on in your life, so that lessons can stop hitting you in the face and instead you can identify them and where that came from and work with it. And that can be your lesson, and they don't have to be so hard. And then fair season for me starts in March. There will be a fair. My first fair is the Spark of Life in Manhattan. And following that will be the Casey Metaphysical Fair in March at Harrah's Casino. So no matter where you're at in the States, I'll be somewhere close in March. So if you follow me on social media, it makes Color Vision. You can see where we'll be at and what we'll be doing to help near you.
All right. And I just wanted to say for people that didn't know, that the towns that you were referring to were in Kansas. But so much
Yes, I
of
do.
the work
Kansas and
is
Missouri
online
most.
too. Yeah. You do a lot of work online
Yes,
too, though,
most
right?
definitely.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So very good. Well, hang on just a little bit, Meg, and I'd like to thank everybody so much for watching today or whenever you're watching. And we hope that you enjoyed this conversation and learned something and can put some thought into what you heard. And so we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Clara.
You're welcome.